think we'd have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Kavanaugh hearings, because everyone and their
Of
mother's been
course.
talking about the Kavanaugh hearings. So I guess we're going to
Fantastic
talk about them
segue, by the
too.
way. Fantastic segue, by the way.
Thank you. But you set me up.
Yeah.
You want
So
you want to go first, or?
Yeah, I'll go first. So
All right.
obviously the big news story is, the Kavanaugh hearings. I mean, we can't. It just the story that just keeps on giving. And I apologize if you see me looking up at the playoffs in baseball have started, and it's the NL wild card game that's still going on. So I might be catching a glimpse at that right at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so what happened there? We talked about the pending hearings that were happening a couple weeks ago, and we gave our thoughts on what we kind of thought about how the timing of everything felt a little dubious. And it's like maybe like she something did maybe happen to her, the Christine Blasey Ford, and maybe like but she might have, her memory might not be as great, and but it also just felt like a little like the way that the information was presented, it all just seemed a little too convenient. But it's like, well, like the sensible people say, okay, well, let's hear the story. Let's I maybe it's like I don't really think they should have given it much credence. Yeah, but they were willing to give her a place to talk and see if the allegations were credible. But then there was the story of them, like, well, I don't, they're okay. Come on Monday of what was it last week? Yeah, it was Monday of last week.
Right.
It's like, well, no, I can't do Monday. Can I? And I want all these other conditions. And it's like the more information that came out about it, it started to me, for me personally, I felt like this seems a little. I've started to see a little bit less and less credibility as time went on. And then once you get to the actual, hearing itself and how absolutely babied this adult grown woman, she's not a 15-year-old, despite what her voice sounds like. And, she, they babied her, and it's like, well, if you need, you take as much time as you need, and if you need to spin around or do whatever the hell you want, pretty much
right. Yeah. They were definitely
possible.
Yeah, they were definitely handling her with kid gloves.
Exactly, and
that was kind of frustrating. It's like this is like a 50-year-old, like over 50-year-old woman, and they're like, I think, right, over 50.
Yeah, she's like in her like mid-50s, so she's
mid-50s,
like my mom's age.
Yeah, and they're treating her. I mean, I didn't expect them to be dicks to her, but a bit. I would expect them to treat them like an adult, or treat her like an adult. And then and then she talks like she's a professor. She teaches, and I can't imagine her talking to her students like that. I can't imagine her if one of the students is screwing around like Jimmy, stop it. It doesn't make sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense to me at all.
And this is where, I was willing to give a little bit of maybe like leeway that maybe okay, maybe something did happen to her. Maybe maybe there was something that and kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt. It's like I had. I had pretty much, I doubted completely that it was, Kavanaugh had anything to do with it. But, maybe something did happen to her. But
Right. And
is
I mean,
the
and Kavanaugh even granted her that much, when he was testifying, where it's like, I'm not, he's like, I'm not saying that she wasn't assaulted or what, she was, or she experienced some sort of, sexual, sexual misconduct, but it just wasn't me. And he
yeah.
granted that premise. He completely granted that premise.
Yeah, but I personally now, after hearing all the all the hearings, all the testimony, which was just brutal. I don't think anything happened. I think it was completely fabricated. And here's why, because after her testimony, and after Kavanaugh's testimony, then it's all of a sudden because they the prosecutor that they brought in to question her, who kind of tripped her up a little bit, and I think it kind of weakened the case that some of the Democratic senators were trying to make. And so all of a sudden you get now there's this other person that's coming forward, and then there's the Kavanaugh who is one of the most despicable humans on the planet Earth.
No doubt.
He brought someone that was even less credible than the characters that they kept bringing forward were even less credible than Christine Ford, who is, to me, pretty much is really not credible to begin with. But then they bring in even crazier people, most notably Swetnick, whatever, I forget what her first name is, but
it's Julie.
Yeah, Julie Swetnick, who has a history of falsely making false allegations of sexual assault to her former, place of business, or and it's in court they found that her allegation was completely false.
I think
they had evidence to support that she was making a false claim.
And I think just recently, I think she was on MSNBC or something, and she actually walked back some of what her claims. Instead of it was for sure. Before it was for sure Brett Kavanaugh was running, at this party, and he was participating in the gangbang, or the gang rape. To I saw him and he was outside of the room where the supposed gang rape was happening.
Yeah, the stories keep changing, and I failed to bring that up. Is the allegations kept getting crazier and crazier. At first it was it was just this kind of boozy grope that it was kind of inappropriate behavior, sexual assault, and then Christine Ford is well, I felt like I was going to be murdered, and it's well, that kind of changes what you were talking about before. And then it's it goes from kind of this boozy grope of her boob, or trying to take her clothes off in a room, to he's what was he 17 at the time that he was at this particular time, and it's well, he was running this gang rape what's the word I'm looking for? A cabal that worked through his school. It's okay,
right, yeah, and
how do you get from here to here? Yeah, it's this person went to that party, to these type of parties several times, when it's you know what? Maybe I should not go to these parties.
Or report these guys, call the cops on them if they're doing what you are claiming that they were doing. Why not? Excuse yourself. Excuse yourself. Leave the party. Get to the nearest phone and call the cops on them.
And then,
You know, and like I forget who it was, but she said like she attended multiple parties like where this was going on. It's like, firstly,
yeah,
how immoral of a person do you have to be to keep going to parties like this where such things are allegedly happening and not say anything?
yeah, it's
That's simply what I have to ask. It's like you keep going to the parties, I hate that I have to say this, but I am not blaming any supposed victims. All right, I am
right.
not.
I
I
mean,
am not in
we're not.
any way saying that it was your fault or whatever. But I'm just simply asking a question. It's like, if you know this thing is going on, you know it's wrong, then why not go and report it? There are ways to report anonymously. A simple phone call is like, hey, I'm at this specific address. There's, a girl's getting raped. Get here now. You don't even have to leave a name.
Exactly.
And like,
Yeah, you can be anonymous.
right, and like,
Here's
she kept going to these parties, and then yet she's supposed to be, and then we're supposed to afford her some sort of credibility.
right. Well, and here's the other thing that why I feel like this whole thing was fabricated in the first place. Why I don't believe Christine Ford is because the people that she supposedly said were witnesses or people that could corroborate her story, when they were questioned, one who is like her close friend is
Yeah, like best friend from maybe like back then.
Who knew of the party that she was discussing, who said it's like, not only was Kavanaugh not there, I have never met this man in my life.
Right. Yeah. Every person,
So,
every person that she mentioned that was supposedly there said like, I have no idea what she's talking about.
yeah, not only did the number of people change in the
All right, that too.
scenario,
That too. The number of people that she
but
supposedly went to this party with kept changing. First, it was like 4, including herself, and then it became like 6, including herself, and then
why would her supposed best friend lie, saying that like not only was Brett Kavanaugh not there, I've never met the guy. So why would she lie about that? And this is her supposed like best friend, right?
exactly.
That's why I think I think the whole thing is completely fabricated. It's complete bullshit. I think she's lying.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was paid. I don't know if she was paid, but like there
Likely she was. Or I mean,
there's some smoke to that fire that she was.
Yeah, I mean, and then here's another thing. Like, someone started a GoFundMe for her supposed legal bills, but all of the lawyers that were there with her at the hearing, they said it themselves on the record. We're doing this pro bono.
Right.
So what the hell is the money for?
Yeah. Oh, and here's the other thing that's a little bit sketchy too. So the lawyer that was, or Christine Blasey Ford's lawyer that was that she had hired, was apparently the same lawyer that was representing Swetnick too.
Right. Yeah, and they were all, and then they were also recommended by Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, and here, like, and I'm not like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but there's a few too many connections that make this feel a little, I don't think it's believable anymore.
Yeah,
There's too many like,
again,
conflicts of interest in this case.
There's what?
There's too many conflicts of interest here. Like, why?
Right.
It feels really. The whole thing just feels really fabricated, and I for one think it's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and people, they have to remember that that this play isn't new. This is that this that this smear tactic isn't new, because they did this to Clarence Thomas back in the '90s, and that's a black guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a black.
I think, but I
and
think it's not new, but I think this is the worst it's been.
Yeah, to the extent that they're taking it, I agree. Because with Anita Hill, they're just like simply saying, well, she was just asserting that or claiming that he was being like sexually inappropriate, like he was making lingering hugs or comments or whatever. But it was ridiculous because she was like working. She worked for him for for a really long time, for like as long as he's been like I think a lower court kind of judge too, and she followed him
Right.
from job to job, and he like promoted her and didn't hinder her career at all.
Exactly. So it that was also kind of just going back and listening to some of the details on that case too. It just that felt very fabricated in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. And the only thing that Clarence Thomas had going for him was the race card, because he was able to flip it really fast by invoking the word lynch. When he said like this is a high tech lynching, all those white Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee back then were like, oh, like their ass was puckered real tight, and they took like 10 giant steps away from this and shut their mouths.
Yeah, I went back and listened to his kind of his rebuttal, his testimony, or the kind of what he was talking about. And it's like, man, he fought back.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was beautiful, but I mean, it kind of sucks for Brett Kavanaugh because he doesn't have that card. I mean, right now it's not the time to be a white male.
No, I'm the most evil person in America now.
Exactly. I know. I don't even know why I'm on the stream with you right now.
I know, right? I mean,
I'm supposed to disavow.
You're essentially collaborating with a Nazi right now.
I know. I am. I'm freaking George Soros.
Yeah.
Look it up, people. He did it.
Oh, I mean, we'll have to. Well, maybe we'll do another. We'll do a George Soros thing later on because I'm like I said, I'm not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but man, there's so much that guy is connected to that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, his past is real sketchy. His present is real sketchy. But
oh yeah, he was a Nazi. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, it was funny because he was a Hungarian Jew, and he turned against his own people. He ratted out other Jews.
Well, great, because I'm a Hungarian, freaking bastard, traitor. Yeah. Anyways,
but I mean, the other thing to talk about is this kind of perpetuation of guilty until proven innocent. Especially because they're like demanding an FBI investigation or whatever. It's like, so you want me to like, and they're trying to get him on this. They're trying to make him like say like, yeah, sure, let's have another FBI investigation against myself.
Yeah, it's a delay tactic.
But also it's like, it's ridiculous. The burden of proof is not on me. The burden of proof is on the accuser.
Right.
And I mean, and
I felt like he Kavanaugh had, he fought back, which is good. And you could see, like, honestly, he was a lot more reserved than I would have been, because I probably would have gone, full birds ablazing to that committee.
Yeah, no, I would have burned the mother down. I would have burned the mother down. Two birds in the air as I was doing it.
Yeah. Oh, you can tell the man is furious because it's like this is something.
He's like super frustrated and he's exacerbated, but from the proceedings, and he just wants it to be over with. But the thing is, he cannot back out.
And here's the thing.
He can't back out because if he does, it makes him look like he's guilty. Even though like even though he's not guilty, or he hasn't been convicted of being guilty of anything, if he pulls out, he looks guilty.
Right.
And so he cannot back out. He has to keep pushing forward. He has to keep pushing forward. He has to put the pedal to the metal, and he has to win this thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, is like I feel like he is innocent, so it's like of course I'd be angry if I was being accused of something as serious as this.
Right.
But then you can tell that you can tell that they didn't have they're not asking him questions about her allegations. They're asking him like dumb questions about like, did you drink alcohol like when you were blah blah blah, or what does the word boof mean? Is that in your yearbook it says this? It's like, what the hell does this have? In my mind, it's like, what in God's name does this have to do with anything compared to her allegations? It's like, why is this important? It's stupid. I mean, they're asking him the dumbest questions, and it's like, and so now it's like they're, he drank. That means he raped somebody. It's like, no, it just means he was a teenager. Big fucking deal. Doesn't make him like, the most notorious serial rapist that ever existed. If that was the case, then damn, like I'm gonna,
Right. That was the stupidest thing they ever did, because they're equating anyone who drinking. They equated drinking with rapist.
Yeah. Stupid.
So it's like anyone who drinks is a rapist. So I'm sure like everyone on that Senate Judiciary Committee is a rapist, because I'm sure that all of them drink.
Well, if that's the case, I've been raped too many times, to Kavanaugh.
Right. I've both been raped and been the rapist.
Exactly.
Plenty of times.